This is episode number 152 of the Homeowner Show. Whether you're DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett. Here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to Homeowner Show. We're glad that you could be with us, even though we're not really together.
Well, we're not together. No, not at all. Not at all.
So
times are weird.
Yeah, many things are amiss. There we are. We're up on the screen now.
Hey,
how's it going, Kev?
It's weird, man. Life's weird. Yeah, just the way it goes, man.
Do you want to explain to everyone what's going on, or should I? Because I feel like I was at the genesis of this situation, but it's definitely hit closer to home for you.
Yeah, so a little over a week and a half ago or so, a group of children went to camp and said camp was fun. You were at the camp. I was not.
That's why it was fun.
Yeah, I guess so. My wife and oldest was there, and at the camp, COVID decided to show up. So people left camp, came home, and my wife figured out a way to contract COVID. So we've been at home, kind of quarantining. Now we've actually been gone. We didn't actually get a positive test until a few days ago, but anyway, we're surviving and everything's good. I mean, she's not in any real danger at the moment or anything, but thankfully, the rest of us are good and haven't had any issues or anything. But that's why I'm not at your house at the studio right now. It's just trying to, make safe choices.
So you locked her in a room?
No, I locked her in my room.
You Rapunzeled her.
Yeah, it's our room, but I feel like I got evicted, which is kind of funny. We're gonna talk about that later. But
we're talking about evictions.
Yeah. So anyway, but no, everything's fine, really. I mean, I'm just gonna work from home this week and play dad for a while.
That'd be fun. Did you send? I know you had some other folks in town. Did you send them home?
Yes.
Okay.
They're gone, and it's just the family right now, and so we're surviving, and everything's fine. Really, I mean, it's just one of those deals, man. Whenever you think things are kind of getting better, then you have a little mini spreader.
Yeah.
And we've got multiple people that we're friends with who have children who have been, gotten a positive result and those sorts of things. I know you're testing like every day right now, right?
Yeah, I've had 2 tests so far, both negative. I mean, I'm not feeling bad. I just know that I've been around people and want to make sure that I'm not, potentially spreading this thing to other people. Sure. Yeah, but can't get that 2-week vacation, man.
No,
one of these days.
No, you don't need it. You don't need it. That would be bad for you. I mean, no. I can work from home. You not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
So, I want to let everybody know I've got a DIY project in the pipeline right now that I'm excited to share with everybody once it works, or once it's completed. I say works because it's something I've been trying to work out on my property for a while. I think I may have, said Alibaba just right to do my pool heater. I think I may have finally figured it out without having to spend $3,000.
Oh my goodness! Well, so getting it figured out is huge because what most people probably don't understand because they've not ever been to your property. We've talked about it plenty of times.
You're all welcome. Come on over.
Yeah. But your pool is in the party barn, which is under a roof.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep.
Which means your pool is
never sees the sunlight.
Never seen sun. So it's always cold.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the middle of the summer, it's 100 degrees outside. You get in your pool and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, even if it were like a normal temperature, like, like 84 degrees or something, like which I think most outdoor pools who exist in like our summer temperatures hang out at, because they experience some amount of shade from trees and different things like that. Even if it were at 84 degrees in the shade, it's still going to feel a lot cooler than it would in the sunlight, because you don't have the sunlight on you. So that's the downside. The upside is the complete lack of melanoma in my children. So you got to pick your battles.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I think that it's great because you don't have to worry about sunscreen. There's a lot of really good pluses, but you need a heater.
Yeah.
So what have you done?
Well, I don't want to reveal too much.
Okay.
But the initial thing that we did is we did a roof solar heater, which is essentially a bunch of skinny black pipes that you roll out. It's almost like a cloth that you roll out on the roof, and then you attach it to your pool pump. It pumps the water up through the pipes, and then that will heat the pool. And that does work. It just doesn't. If you don't have a good timer on your pool, which I don't, again, that's another issue. We're working on that one. You have to go and manually turn it on and off, and hopefully you're doing it at the heat of the day. And as you got to think, I mean, like if you had a 15,000 gallon pool and you're pumping water through tiny black tubes, it takes a lot of heat to heat that water up and then continuously do it. And as it's getting reintroduced to the pool, it's cooling off. So it's a long process.
Yeah.
My second attempt at sort of DIYing this was I got one of these cheap Chinese outdoor showers, water heaters. And the issue with that has been that the pool pump and the system, the way that it works, doesn't generate enough pressure to push water through it efficiently.
Okay.
So it works great. I mean, like if you just hook it up to the hose and you turn it on, the propane kicks in and it heats that water up like nobody's business.
Sure.
Now, getting that amount of pressure out of the pool system to recirculate the water is a whole other issue. But anyway, in weeks to come, hopefully, I will have some updates about that, and hopefully we'll get it solved. Preliminary tests are promising. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Cool. Good.
So, but tonight, what we want to talk about and wax eloquently is something major that happened in the United States here on Saturday. Are you aware of this, Kevin?
Yeah, I am. We probably need to do some setup before we get to that, and kind of, because some people, if you're a homeowner out there, there's a good possibility you're kind of unaware of what has even happened, and then now what is being retracted basically at this point.
Well, and maybe not, because it's not. It wasn't just a moratorium for renters.
Well, it was primarily geared toward renters.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So they're back whenever COVID began and people were losing their jobs, and people were just trying to figure out, how am I going to pay my rent? The government put a moratorium on that basically said, look, you can't evict anybody right now because they can't pay their rent. That's illegal. We're not going to allow you to do that because, look, we're in a weird situation. Times are weird, and we're just not going to let you do it. We heard some crazy stories. You remember that story of the deal out in California?
Which one was that?
The one where a home owner sold their house, closed on the deal,
mm-hmm.
everything was completely done, and then they refused to leave the house.
Yes, I do remember that.
And the new homeowners were going, look, you sold us your house. It's now our house. The money's in the bank. Like, the money's in the bank. We have your house. It's our house now. It is not your house. Get out of my house. And the previous homeowners who just sold their house were going, oh, no, look, there's a moratorium. You can't evict us. And they're like, we're not renting this house to you. They're like, well, this is the only house we have, so it's illegal for you to push us out of the only, roof covering that we have here. You can't do that. And it became really ugly.
Yeah. So yes, there was a moratorium on evictions.
Right.
There was also a moratorium on foreclosures.
Okay. That's the part I wasn't thinking of when you were asking that question.
And so both of these collided on Saturday.
Right.
And so this is according to the Washington Post, an article they put up yesterday. It says over 2 million homeowners are delinquent on their mortgage, and billions in federal aid has yet to be distributed.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Now, it's really incredible. And one of the things that's bizarre about that, to me at least, is that they're basically saying, look, there are financial aid options out there for you, but good luck finding them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even if you find them, that there's no guarantee you're going to get the money.
Right. And I was just flipping through this article, and they've already posted a correction to the article. So here's one of the corrections, and I think this is an important distinction. It says that this story originally reported that 1.5 million homeowners are at least 3 months behind on their mortgage payments. Okay, that's actually true. Okay,
sure.
That at least 1.5 million homeowners are at least 3 months. So like, it's not. The initial part of the story said that there was over 2 million homeowners that are delinquent. Okay, so that could just be one month. What it's saying is that there's 1.5 million that are at least 3 months behind on their mortgage without a forbearance plan. The correction is the story has been corrected to note that those homeowners are not in foreclosure yet.
Okay. But they can be put in foreclosure
as of Saturday.
Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so to add on to that, the interesting part about that, at least, so this is a story put out by ABC 13, which is a local Houston affiliate of ABC.
Right.
And here's what it says. It says that 45 million remain in program helping renters facing eviction as eviction moratorium ends. Okay.
Wow.
So so that's different from foreclosure. Right. So we're talking about two different things. We got eviction and we got foreclosure over here. But here in Houston, there's at least $45 million sitting in reserve in order to help people who are facing eviction because they can't pay their rent.
Yeah, so the distinction here is people that are in foreclosure own their home.
Yes.
People that are
potentially being evicted
are renters.
Right.
So they don't own their home. So that's the difference in the terms. But again, we're talking about a problem here where these people need the money, and it's sitting there available, but it's not being passed out. Now, part of the question I've got here, though, is that because people don't know they need to go get it, or they don't know it's available, or they're just really slow in getting it to people?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the weird part. And
right.
Here's my issue with the whole situation is the government made it really well known that there was going to be a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. And in fact, when COVID started, they even shut the court system down.
Yeah, you could not get to the court in order to evict someone.
No, you couldn't get before the judge for anything.
Right.
And so that created lots of problems for lots of different reasons for lots of different people. A big one that we're talking about is evictions and foreclosures. The banks couldn't file,
Sure.
landlords couldn't file, and so it just created this log jam.
Right.
Well, and the government came out and said, like, look, even if you could get to court, we are putting a moratorium on the courts even ruling on these things. So, like, you can't, even
Right.
if you could get to the court, you couldn't do it anyway. So, like,
Right.
stop worrying.
Yeah, and there was a huge problem with all of this. I mean, because the courts, I mean, there were even divorces that couldn't go through, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
there were DUIs and petty theft and all kinds of things, let alone the bigger stuff. But we're just here talking about basic rights that homeowners who are renting homes should have, which is to evict people if they're not paying.
Yeah.
It's actually a protection for those people. Look, I mean, so there's lots of different ways to get someone out of the house, right? If you're not paying your rent, there's lots of ways to get people out of the house. In fact, one of the ways that I know a lot of homeowners who are renting, so landlords, a lot of landlords do is they do cash for keys, right?
Right.
So if you don't know what cash for keys is, it's pretty simple. It's like, look, I'll give you $1,000 to give me the keys and leave. And if you do that, I won't evict you, which means you don't have an eviction on your record, and I'm not going to have to pay $5,000 to get you out of the house.
Right.
So it's kind of a win-win for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I mean, if someone says, no, I'm not leaving, you're going to have to evict me. Landlords have that ability to evict people, but you have to go through the court. You have to go through these processes. And if the courts aren't open or there's a moratorium out, you're up a creek. So here's the problem. Now we've got a log jam. We got a log jam of evictions that were already underway before the moratorium began, right? But they hadn't been pushed through. Now they're actually telling people, like, look, if you are worried about being evicted and you're only a month behind, you're probably good for a while at least, because they're going to go after people that are 3, 4, 6, 10 months behind. They're going after those people first, most likely, because that's what they have. They stand to gain the most from that. So they're almost telling people, look, depending on where you are, on how far back you owe, you may be okay for a little while, but I don't know how comforting that is, really.
Well, there's two sides to every coin, right? So I mean, like, we can be concerned about the people who are worried about getting kicked out and or either evicted or foreclosed on, and like let's just focus on the evicted people for a minute, because I can just story after story after story that I've read about landlords who have now had tenants living in their property for going on like 9+ months that have never paid rent in those 9 months, because they knew that they didn't have to pay rent because the government put out a proclamation that said moratorium on evictions. No matter what you do, you can't be evicted. Right. And so, like, even I think it was Saturday, the White House press secretary said, like, look, we've tried everything we can to try and extend this. And I'm like, why are you extending this?
Right.
Because most people think about, okay, well, these evil landlords are trying to kick people out of their home. And in some instances that is true. There's a greedy slumlord that runs a really crappy property and he's just trying to kick people out so he can bring new people. That does happen. But
Sure.
by and large, most landlords are single property owners, meaning that
Yep.
They own one piece of investment real estate.
Yep.
And there was no
and many of them that own more than one own less than five.
Yeah. And
Right?
so
And so they're really needing that money. They're needing to be able to find a way to pay the mortgage on that house.
Exactly. And here's the difference, right? Is there was a moratorium on evictions. The way that the foreclosure stuff works is it was a forbearance.
Yeah.
And so the banks, the government went to the banks and said, like, look, we're putting a forbearance, or you can apply for a forbearance on this property. But at the end of the day, you still owe us all the money.
Right.
Whereas the people renting the property can go pound sand. The government says,
right.
I don't have to owe you anything.
Yeah, and not only are you, if you get access to a forbearance, and let's say you're I don't know, let's say you're 4 months, 5 months, 6 months that you don't have to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only are you still going to have to owe that money on the back end, you're still going to have to pay the interest on all of that.
Right.
So whatever, I mean, and for most people, especially at the beginning of your mortgage, goodness, like 90% of your monthly mortgage is interest.
Yeah.
You know, so if you got $1,000 mortgage, you're talking like 900 of that is going to interest, and only 100 of that is going to principal. So if you're 6 months out, I mean, you're still going to have to pay interest on that on the back end, as well as that $6,000 that you owe. I mean, while it seems like a good deal on some level, it's really the bank's still going to get their money, you know?
Yeah.
And so even if you own a home that's an investment property, you get a forbearance on it, and someone doesn't pay, and you need to evict them, you still are on the hook for that money. And so, I feel for these landlords who have had to go for so long without having any recourse at all to get people out of their home.
Yeah, it would almost seem like the more logical thing, like if you're going to do a moratorium on evictions, that the programs that you're going to, like the one here in Houston where ABC 13 says that there's 45 million just sitting in the wings waiting to assist these renters. It actually seems like it would make more sense to, if you're going to do a moratorium on evictions, to offer that money to the landlords, which I get it. Like everyone thinks of landlords as being like these, wealthy oil tycoons just twisting their mustaches in the corner while they're smoking a big fat stogie. But, if we have these programs in place and people aren't taking advantage of them, why not at least set the secondary recipient up as the landlords to go, look, I have a tenant. I don't want to evict them. They haven't paid rent in 4 months. Can you at least give me half of their rent for what they owed the last 4 months?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, at least do something proactive in order to move that money into the hand. Because, if you're telling me, okay, it's there for the renters in order to assist them to avoid evictions, but we have a moratorium on evictions, even if they got the money, that money is appropriated to go to the landlord anyway.
That's where it's going. So
why do we have to put it through so many hands in order to get it to the person that it belongs to in the first place?
Yeah, and I guess that's one of my big questions here is what motivation, other than someone pointing a finger and saying you're going to be evicted, what motivation does a renter have to go after that money to begin with?
None.
And because they cannot be evicted, at least until sometime in the future. And so, now there are plenty of people out there who are really, really, hardworking, good people trying to pay their rent, who this is affecting in big ways. I get it. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. And I'm going to ask a question that I think a lot of people might scoff at, but I just want to put it out there because I think some people are thinking of it, and I want to just ask it. Like, why has it taken so long to lift the moratorium? I mean, and here's why I asked that question. You and I know that at least where we live, and I know this is true around the country, there are people begging people to come work for them. Begging. I mean, you want to know why our gas prices are high? Because we can't get anybody to run the truck to get from the refinery to the gas station, right? You want to know why your food's so expensive? Because we can't find someone to run a truck from the warehouse to the grocery store, let alone all of these other little places like the restaurants and other places that are just begging to have employees, and they can't find anybody willing to work. Okay, so if we have a national shortage of people that are willing to get paid to do work, then why is it taken so long for the moratorium to be lifted?
I think yes, I agree with your questions there, and I think they're fair questions to ask. I think there's probably a lot of people that listen to this that might be screaming at us, going, "That's not the only reason."
No, I get it.
And that's fair.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm only asking the question to play devil's advocate. I'm not even saying I completely agree with what the actual answer is or even asking the question. I'm just saying that I think that's a question that people are out there asking is, look, you can go get a job because people are willing to give you a job. And if you have a job, then you can pay your rent.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of
hypothetically, yeah, sure.
It's the logical sequence of events, and so my point is this problem is big.
Yeah,
it's not a simple answer. It's not as simple as saying, look, they should have lifted it earlier, or you know what, they should have extended it. Whatever it is, there's not an easy answer to this. But what I do know is there are a lot of landlords just pulling out paperwork left and right, filling it out, trying to figure out how to evict these people. They'll take it on the chin as much as they can.
Yeah, and like hear me say this with as much compassion and understanding as possible. But right? Like we doled out, and the collective we, the United States, doled out a lot of money to people over the last year and a half. Either through child tax credits or just emergency relief, all sorts of different ways in which the U.S. government sent money into the hands of people. Now, to be fair, all those people had to have filed their taxes within the last 2 years. I get it. There was no accountability for how that money was being spent.
Nope.
And so it seems to me, and like you and I probably don't know how the moratorium, what's the other word that I used? Forbearance. We don't know how the moratorium or the forbearance actually worked because you and I paid our bills through this. Luckily, we kept our jobs.
We were blessed.
Like we got to take care of our families. We didn't go through a lot of the hardships that people genuinely went through. But if, I would imagine there's some sort of like document or declaration that you have to make in order to even be in forbearance or moratorium. Maybe not. I don't know. But it seems like if you're going to take money from the government and you're going to claim forbearance or dadgummit, I can't keep my words straight, Kevin.
The moratorium.
If you're going to claim moratorium or forbearance, you ought to at least show that the money that you're receiving, a portion of that should go towards rent or mortgage.
Yeah,
if nothing else,
instead,
because we don't want our financial institutions to fall apart, which is part
no.
B of this conversation that I think we're about to have.
Sure. So, but one of the things if you were to go back and listen again to what the government was saying is, go spend the money.
Yeah.
Back into our economy is what they were saying. Go buy a new TV. Go go put a down payment on a car. Go do whatever you have to do to put this money back into the economy to stimulate the economy. That's why they called it a stimulus check. Never once did I hear someone in position of power say this would be a really good way to keep yourself out of eviction.
Yeah. Because there weren't any evictions.
There weren't. But I never heard someone say this might help pay your electric bill. It was all about stimulating the economy. Now, what I am hearing now with some of these child tax credits that are coming from last month through the end of the year is this is to help with your children. You got more people to feed, those sorts of things. I'm hearing that more now. Sure. But when it comes to those stimulus checks that were big chunks of money being handed out, it was more like, let's stimulate the economy than it was pay your bills.
Yeah. So let's pivot a little bit then, because let's face it, we have been riding the real estate gravy train for how many months now?
Oh golly, it's been a crazy year for sure, but probably 7-8 months.
7-8 months. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And so prices have just continued to go up and up and up and up. And I'm curious as to what you think now is what's going to happen now that it's open season on evictions and foreclosures. Now, foreclosures are going to be a little bit different because people could go into forbearance, and I think those have a cap on the time limit that the government set. And I think if you have reached the extension of your forbearance as of Saturday, you can go into foreclosure, or the bank can put you into foreclosure. But I think there's a certain amount of time. I need to double check this, but it's
like 6 months, right?
I think so. But I think after you've used that up, then they can begin the foreclosure process. But either way, at the end, when you decide to come out of forbearance, you have to set up a way in which to pay back the money that you didn't pay during that forbearance time.
Yeah, and there's a few different ways to do that. One of those ways is just to set up like a payment plan. But you have to go in and set that up with the bank basically, or say, look, I'm going to pay you back this amount.
You set it up as a separate loan, right?
Exactly. It's kind of this whole separate thing to basically say, I'm going to pay the money that I owe you. And that's actually one of the things that that Washington Post article actually had an FAQ section to it, and one of the FAQ answers was a question that said, what do I do if I'm evicted? And it basically said, well, the first thing you need to do is don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Go, do what you need to do. Go to court and plead your case. Don't just ignore this and just hope that it magically goes away. It's not going to go away. Yeah. Right. So, I think there's a couple of things that will happen. I think that there's going to be, I think you're going to have some people that have been landlords of that one or two properties that are just sunk, man, and they're going to get out from under their house as fast as they possibly can. So I think one of the things that's going to happen is we are going to see a little bit of an influx of properties. Now, one of the reasons that, from what I understand, and I'm not a real estate expert by any means, but what I do understand is that part of the reason that prices are so high and why people are, getting 15, 20, sometimes even 30 cash offers on their home, and they're all over price, asking price, is because there's just not enough homes on the market. I mean, right. What we're talking about is we've got an inventory
issue.
Issue. Yeah, we just don't have enough inventory out there. So if you're looking for a 4.3 or 4.2.5 or whatever you're looking for, I mean, you may be looking in a certain area and there may be 2 of them, right? And most of the time there might be 50 of them. And so it's just that you're looking at an inventory problem. So one of the things that I think could happen is you're going to have some of these landlords who are going, man, I got to get out from under these houses. I can't afford the mortgage. I'm behind on it because I couldn't afford it. I'm in forbearance. I'm about to be in foreclosure. I got to just get out from under it. I think we could see a little bit of a relief on the inventory reduction that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think could happen is we could see renters having to go, look, my mortgage is $1,000. I was charging $1,200. I'm going to have to start charging $1,500.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to figure out a way to recoup this. And so all of a sudden I think what we're going to wind up seeing is we're going to see people go, look, I could buy this house for $1,000, but I'm going to pay $1,500 in rent. Now I'm going to go start seeing if I can figure out a way to buy the house rather than rent the house. And so one of 2 things I think could happen. Either we're going to see some of that inventory reduction go down a little bit to where there's more houses, or we're going to see some of these renters go, look, it's time for me to start buying a house. And then if that's the case, and we've got more people looking for a home, and the inventory is going to get worse.
Well, here's the thing, though, man, is like these people who haven't been paying their rent, like I can't imagine that their credit's in good shape to start moving towards home ownership.
You're probably not wrong. I mean, and
I don't know what they're going to do to, I mean, like, well, that was COVID. I can't imagine any institution going like, well, oh, okay, it was COVID.
I guess part of it depends on, but sometimes you don't need credit to buy a house, you know? I mean, if you've been stockpiling money away because you haven't been paying rent.
That's true. Well, but like, yes, but like, you have to account for the amount that house prices have gone up. Right?
Yeah.
So even if you've been stockpiling money, there's no way that you have enough cash on hand just in the last year and a half to go pay cash for the house that you would be living in now.
Most of the time, that's probably true. I'm sure there are rare occasions where some people are renting just because they don't want the hassle of owning a home.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are cases where that's probably true, but even still, those are probably the people that are actually happy to pay their rent, not the ones that are, not able to pay their rent. We're probably talking about 2 different types of people. And I say that sounds very harsh. I don't mean it to be.
Well, just real quick, we had a comment come through on the Facebook channel that said that, like, in Houston at least, the number you called 211 to get renters assistance.
Yeah, and that's not just a Houston number. That is actually that was on the Washington Post FAQ page. Was what can I do? And one of the things it says was call 211. So what I'm guessing, 211 has probably got some sort of a proximity to it, kind of like 911 would.
Probably, yeah.
And so and this kind of goes back to what I was going to say earlier. Whenever you were talking about how this all works, from state to state, it's going to be different. But 211 in most states, it's not every state, but most states, including Texas, that's going to get you to a specialist who's going to be able to help put you in contact with a community organization or an agency that can help you with your housing needs.
Yeah. So thank you, Brett, for that. Making sure we brought that up. Man, well, here's the quandary that I'm wondering about, because if you have all these homes that people haven't been paying rent on, right? So those guys have been in, this moratorium process where they're not paying rent. The landlord can't evict them. I can imagine that in general, the good-hearted tenants have not been taking good care of the property.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because no matter what they do, up until this past Saturday, they couldn't be evicted.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter. So even if you evict this person, and what you're talking about is, okay, well now these houses are going to be entering the market because we can evict them. And let's also remember that eviction is not immediate. I mean, it takes some time to evict people. So like we're gonna have some time pass before these houses enter the market as part of the supply, right? And once they receive that eviction notice, I can imagine that they're going to continue to not take care of the property. That's almost always the case when you evict somebody, is that, a lot of times they'll just trash the property.
Right.
More out of spite than anything. But
sure.
I can't imagine that over the last 6, 9, 12 months, that these people have not been taking very good care of the property. So the quality of the supply that's going to be hitting the market is going to be much lower.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's just going to,
I don't know if that's going to tank the prices of other homes because the quality is so low, but now it's entering the supply, or what that's actually going to, or if it's actually going to raise the prices of the other ones of, like, hey, you can buy one right now at a reasonable price, but it's a, heap of, smoldering crap. Or you can buy this brand new one for 80% more than what you'd pay for this smoldering heap of dung.
Right. Yeah, but there are plenty of people out there who would love to flip those houses. I mean,
for sure.
Again, what we're talking about here is we're talking about skyrocketing house prices that these investors who love to go in and flip homes, they have been either out of the game or playing a game that they never wanted to play because prices are just too high. So if they can get their hands on some of these, heaping smelly piles of dung, as you so adequately
smoldering.
Sorry, yeah. I'll try to get it right.
Get my adjectives right.
That's right. I think that some of these people are going to be really happy to come in and scoop them up, and whenever they do, you're going to pay a premium for that house that was just tore to shreds, because they're going to come in and they're going to put in, the lowest quality granite they can, the cheapest, slab of paint that they can slap on the walls. They're going to put on the cheapest carpet they can put in. They're going to make it look really nice, and then they're going to charge a premium for it. Mm-hmm. And you've got the nicest house on the block all of a sudden. And I'm thinking that, again, this could go either way.
I agree with that sentiment too. I don't know what the market's going to do with it, though.
I don't either.
So to cap off this, this lovely conversation, let's make some predictions.
Okay.
Kevin, what do you think? All of these because there's a lot that happened on Saturday, and a lot that's going to be happening over the weeks to come. What do you predict is going to be the effect on the housing market? And if you don't feel comfortable making like a nationwide prediction, just keep it local, keep it maybe to Texas or to the Houston area. What do you think? And Texas may be unfair. I feel like places like Texas, Tennessee, and Florida have largely been insulated from a lot of the stuff that's been happening across the country. So let's keep it broad. Let's say U.S. predictions. What do you think is going to actually happen to the housing market?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say that I think that we're going to have a problem with people who are being evicted left and right, who are going to have evictions on their credit now, and they're not going to be able to find a place to live. I think we're going to have a big problem with that. I think we're going to have families with children that are going, I can't get an apartment, I can't get a house, I can't get anything. I'm homeless. I'm afraid we're going to have that problem. But unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is I think the housing market prices are going to go up. I just think they are, because I think that these people that have been renting these houses, these landlords, they're going to have to find a way to recoup that money, and these rent prices are going to go up. And I think as soon as the rent prices go up, I think people are going to go, look, my house is actually worth more because this house next to me is being rented for 50% more than I pay, for my mortgage.
Right.
And I think that they're going to go, look, my house is worth this, and they're going to stick to their guns whenever it's time to sell. They're going to go, no, I don't care what you say it's worth, Mr. or Mrs. Real estate agent. I'm going to charge this much for it, and either someone will pay it or they won't. And so I think that overall, I don't think we're going to see a reduction in the number of houses that are on the market. We're not going to see an influx. I think we're going to wind up continuing to see the reduction take place for the next 3 to 5 years. And I think prices are just going to continue to rise.
I don't know if you saw the comment that just came through. I thought Melanie had a good point. Is like who goes first, the renter or the landlord? Like, are they going to foreclose on the landlord, or are they going to evict the tenant? And like, to her point, I mean, like, who can afford to move last?
No, I think that
I think ultimately the landlords are going to take it in the shorts. I think
so too, because the banks are going to be able to move faster than the landlords are.
Yes. Well, and I think there's going to be less compassion for them as well.
Yeah,
and not even talking about like the spirit of the law. I mean, like, I think in general, judges are going to want to move faster on foreclosures than they will on evictions.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, if I were a landlord right now, I would be offering cash for keys as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
That's just what I would do. So, what say you?
Man, I think we're gonna see some interesting stuff in days to come. I'm reminded of a statement that Obama made, and man, I can't remember what. I think it was like 2012. I think it was when he said that too big to fail. He said these institutions are too big to fail. And I think as we see some cascading real estate stuff begin to happen, similar to what we saw in 2008 with the housing market crash and the massive amounts of books of bad loans that these banks were making, which I don't think is the case this time. I think the government stepped in and made a lot of these loans bad. So I think as a lot of these loans begin to be foreclosed on, we're going to see a response in the market similar to what happened in 2008. But I don't think that it's going to be nationwide like it was last time. I think a lot of this is going to be localized to states where we've seen a lot of flux out. And so
you're talking like the Californians, the New Yorks,
you start talking about like California, Washington, New York, Maryland, different places where they've had heavy restrictions on COVID regulations on top of just other things that have been going on in those states. And so here in Texas, like, we've had a huge influx of people from California.
Yep.
I know other states have experienced influx of people from California, New York, Connecticut, Maryland. I mean, a lot of northeastern states. People are moving out of places like Oregon because they don't want to be near Portland anymore. I'm trying to think. There's Baltimore, that's in Maryland. People are trying to move away from some of the bigger cities. And a lot of it has to do with that, they can have a bigger home in a warmer climate, and they can keep their job because now their job's remote. So they can live anywhere. And they can go to places where their taxes are lower, just all sorts of other things that they enjoy about those places. So I think if you're patient, you stand to make quite a bit of money in a shallow real estate market in places like California, Maryland, New York, Portland. Portland's not a state but a city, but Oregon, maybe
might as well be.
And then Portland's basically the state of Oregon. Even parts of Washington, man. I think in some of those places where you're going to see a lot more supply. Because in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, there's just no supply, and there's going to continue to be no supply, and so the demand is going to continue to be high. And with low supply, high demand, the prices are going to be what the prices are going to be. Those places,
they're going to be high.
Those places, I think we're going to see a surplus of properties that people can't unload now. Now that evictions and foreclosures are available, I don't see those markets doing well. And so I think it's going to be one of the first times in a long time in U.S. history where we see a divergence in the real estate market from state to state.
Okay, so here's a real interesting question that just popped into my brain. Do you think that we're going to start seeing new language around these contracts that landlords are putting into place?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know why they would do that, because they had that in place for the existing contracts. The government just came in and said those contracts were no good.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, and so they're like, well, why would I even waste my time updating my contract? I just got boned by the federal government.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of really smart people out there, and there may be lawyers all over this trying to figure out a way around it.
There may be. I mean, like, and they're definitely all smarter than I am. But like, yeah. If the U.S. government can come in and say, like, look, you both consented to sign this, mutually agreed upon contract, but we say no.
Yeah.
Like, then what did I go through all this trouble in the first place for? Like, I don't get it.
Screw you, government.
So like, you could be as smart as you want to, but if they come in and say, we don't like that now.
Yeah. I don't know.
So why even? Yeah. So.
I don't know. I just think there might be some crafty people out there figuring out a way to. I don't know. Maybe it's you're no longer a renter. Maybe you're a contract liver in my house person. I don't know.
I mean, like that could. I mean, like Airbnb could definitely take off more as a long-term living situation where you rent week to week.
Yeah, because at that point, you could go in and change the locks. Anytime you want. I don't know. I think there's going to be some people that are going to figure out a way around this.
If you are a landlord, Airbnb might be a more tenable position for you financially. Because like you said, when that contract is done, which was I rented this house for 4 days. Cool. The locks are changed. Good luck getting back in. And it's not an eviction at that point. It was a short-term rental.
Yep.
So
that's exactly right.
I don't know. That may be the way a lot of people go. I mean, like we're fixing to do that with a property that we own, and I have zero interest in having long-term renters in that place.
No, not at all. If for no other reason, you want it on the weekend. So,
but like you could even do it to where it's like, look, what is it every month? Well, it's it's $120. I mean, it's $1,200. Okay, what is it every week? It's $300.
Yep. Right. Yeah. No, exactly. No, that's exactly right. I will put out there. I'm going. We got another comment over here from our friend Brett. I don't know if he's saying it this way or if I'm just reading it this way. But back whenever we were talking about what we thought the housing market was going to do, he posted, when you buy the foreclosed house, does it come with the tenant?
Yeah. Well, no, like that used to be a selling point for homes, right?
It did.
And you had to disclose that to the buyer that, like, look, you can't go look at this property because there's a tenant, it's tenant occupied. And that actually used to be a benefit because you could go, okay, well, how long has that tenant been there? And so the rent's been this for how long? Okay, so and so you could go, okay, this is already a cash flowing property, like, and the tenant's already there. Right. I don't have to go find one, so I'll buy this property. And now if you got that listing and you're like, tenant occupied, oh hell no.
Right. Yeah. No, that's not gonna fly anymore. I mean, it's just like, no, I don't. There's a reason you got out from under that to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. So what else we got, Kev? Man. I mean, we're creeping up on an hour here. I mean, like, I can talk about this stuff for a while, but I think we kind of covered it.
No, I agree. I think we're just going to be circling ourselves for a while if we keep talking about it. And there's probably another show in here somewhere. I would really like to hear from some of our listeners, and maybe you have some answers to some of the questions that we've brought up. And I'm sure there are some people that are angry over some of the things that we've brought up and, asked. But, at the end of the day, it's a big deal. And we're living in unprecedented times in so many ways. And now a moratorium has ended. It's gone. You can't bring it back. The government can, but they probably aren't gonna. And so we're living with what we got. So, I'll tell you this, like if you are listening out there and you're a renter, which I know we don't have very many of those people in our audience, but if you're a renter out there and you've been in a situation where you haven't been able to pay your rent, call 211. Just do it.
Yeah. Call
them tomorrow. I mean, especially if you live in the Houston area, if there's $45 million sitting out there, the chances of you getting some of that money seem to be pretty good. So do what you can. We're definitely, we're not anti people paying, the rent. We want you to pay your rent. We want you to be able to. So
you'll feel better.
And everybody will. I mean, goodness. Here's the other part of this. I mean, so many people just are non-confrontational people. And it's one of the reasons they had to put in the FAQ, don't ignore an eviction. You know what I mean? Like, don't be non-confrontational. Like, be confrontational a little bit.
Yeah.
But don't do it in a way that's passive-aggressive by not paying your rent. If you can pay it, pay it. And that's another thing that I'm kind of like, I know there are people out there that aren't paying their rent because they didn't have to. If you can, do it. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, man, that's about all I got. You got anything else?
No, man, that's all I got.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for downloading today's episode. It has been fun. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. That would be great for us. Send us a Facebook like and all of the things. More importantly, if you get a chance, we would love for you to go leave us a rating and review on iTunes. That would be fantastic. But we are so glad that you're here with us. We're here each and every Tuesday. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See you.